Christina, would you call the roll, please?
Larry Porter.
Here.
Jack Looney.
Here.
Garland Land.
Here.
Joe Zach.
Here.
Mark McDonald.
Here.
David McDowell.
Here.
Bridget McCandless.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody present. Christina, is there any need for us to approve any minutes? I don't think so, but it's up to you.
No, not at this time.
Okay, then I guess we'll just get started in the agenda after the roll call. We have a report from IPL on priorities.
So, Mr. Porter, I'm not sure how you want to do this. If the information that Mr. Looney submitted earlier this week, if that's someone wants to review that information first, or how you want to proceed there?
Well, I want to get the IPL priorities out of the way first.
Okay, so
Chairman Porter.
I'm sorry, what?
Chairman Porter, Jack Looney.
Yeah, Jack.
In the interest of moving this along, let me give a brief description and make a motion regarding priorities, if that's appropriate.
Well, yeah, I guess it is. If you want to make a motion, go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to explain to the board that I worked with our priorities since we need to move them on and we were unable to do it as a group. There was repetition. There was overlay in some of the requirements. So I took the board's input. I did not change a thing. I took the board's input and reconstructed it into a form that would allow priorities to take place at government level, things that are going to take several weeks, several months perhaps, several discussions, perhaps some changes to make happen. And I called that the City Council level advisement. I moved the other items, which I did not change the priorities. They are the same as we have agreed thus far, and moved it to the utility level advisement level, meaning that those things can proceed without higher authority, more approval. They're more dealing with day-to-day utility operations, and they're well within the utility manager's realm of responsibility. And so today I make a motion that we take this list of priorities titled the Independence Power and Light Priority Listing, PUAB submission, and make this recommendation to council for as priorities. So the motion would be to accept this list of priorities as recommendations to the council.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I got a second. On the discussion on it, now we have a second. I agree with you, Jack, wholeheartedly that, and I appreciate all the staff's work on their priorities of what they came up with, that some of them we approved and some of them we really just weren't sure of. I think there's an awful lot of window dressing that stuff needs to be done already in management that doesn't need to be on a priority list. I think of one of our most important priorities is getting some handle on how we are going to get more power later on. The change in administration in the federal government, whether we like it or not, is going to affect our power source I have the feeling the cost of power is going to be going up. I think we need to look at that real strong. So with that going on, I am going to vote yes on this motion. Anybody else want to discuss
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, this is Mark McDonald.
Mark McDonald, go ahead.
I truly appreciate what Jack has done. He's taken it upon himself to come to a middle ground so that covers all the bases that we've been discussing. And yes, it's taken time, but I think what he's come up with is a fine product. And I also will be voting to approve this motion. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you,
this is
Mark.
Gar-
Anyone else?
Yes, this is
Yes,
Garland.
Joe Zach.
Yeah, Joe Zach.
Is this, Jack, is this the one you're talking about, the utility management level advisement? There's a 6 steps. Is that the one we're talking about here?
Yes, at that level, and then there's another level that has 6 steps.
Okay. Yes, I agree with this, and I voted for it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman?
Well, Bridget was first. Garland,
Okay.
hold on.
Sure.
Bridget, go ahead.
I want to thank Jack for finding a nice path forward. I do want to be sure that when we talk about Mr. Porter's statement about thinking about our long-term planning, that we include a statement about designing a portfolio of staged options so that we're thinking about 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10-year kind of partnerships and processes that's going to allow us to build in recognition of the dramatic shifts that are happening in the energy sector right now. So that would be my only caveat. But other than that, I think this is worth moving forward on. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Go ahead, Garland.
Yes, I also appreciate what Jack has brought forward to us. I'd like to make just a couple of suggestions. I think there's a typo under the utility management advisement under number 2. It has FEC. I think that's supposed to be FERC, FERC. So I think that can be just a typo that can be corrected. I don't think it needs to be an amendment or anything.
Okay.
And then under number 4, this is the only one that is in a kind of a paragraph format, and it doesn't follow the same format as the others in a dot point type of format. And I'd like to just suggest a different format that I think is more consistent with the other formats. And if I can read an amendment for that one, that would read replacing that paragraph to read 2 dot points that would read evaluate rates based upon similar utility companies as 1 dot point, and the other dot point would be evaluate rates based upon operational budgets. And I think that that's in that paragraph, so it doesn't change the intent of that paragraph. But and I think we've also in the past had that discussion that our rates should be based upon similar utility companies. So both of those dot points, I think, would be consistent with our previous discussions, but it would be just be a more consistent format of the way the rest of these formats have been laid out. So I'd like to make that amendment of replacement.
Well, I think it's in there. That's I don't know why it's covered in there in that paragraph.
Yeah,
Is it not?
it's just that this is the only one where it's a paragraph, whereas all the others are dot points. I just want to be consistent in our format. So I make that amendment. I make that amendment.
Well, if you're making a motion to make an amendment,
Yes.
I have a
Yes.
second on it.
Second.
All in favor of the change to the, whatever Garland said? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Chair, one quick question. Can I get who made the second on the first motion, please? I didn't hear a name on that one.
It was me.
Joe Zach,
No, it was me.
It was
David
Garland, I
McDowell.
think.
who made the second on the, first motion?
I did.
You,
Mr.
Garland?
McDowell, that's you?
Yes, it is. My voice is almost gone. Sorry.
All right, Ms. McDowell,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Call the
Okay,
roll
you
on
ready
the
for me to call?
Yeah,
Larry Porter,
no,
Jack Looney,
Yes.
Garland Land,
Yes.
Joe Zach,
No.
Mark McDonald,
No.
David McDowell,
No,
Bridget McCandless, Bridget McCandless. I think you might be on mute, actually.
Yes.
Thank you.
motion failed, is that right, Christina?
That's correct.
Motion failed. Now I'll have a vote on the motion to start with. Call the roll.
Larry Porter,
Yes,
Jack Looney,
Yes.
Garland Land,
Yes.
Joe Zach,
Yes.
Mark McDonald,
Yes.
David McDowell,
yes.
Bridget McCandless,
Yes.
motion passed.
that's correct.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Bridget?
So my question earlier about strengthening language about designing a portfolio of staged options in recognition of the dramatic shifts in the energy sector, is it possible to add that as an amendment to the document?
I think it would be if we do it at a later date, once we go through this together again
Okay, thank you.
and sort some of the stuff out. And that's why I voted no on Garland's, because I think we need to still look at this. I approve this going to them, but I want us to, again, like you said, strengthen some of the language and do the right thing. And I think that's what we need to be doing, is if that's all right with you, we can put that off at a later date as we get into this.
Of course, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Mark McDonald. I share the same issue with Bridget. I think we need to have a portfolio that takes into account the life cycle of our current obligations when it comes to purchased power. Also with the issue that we need to deal with our solar inventory that we currently have. All those things need to be taken into account, whether it be 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. So I totally agree with her.
I appreciate that. I understand what everybody's saying, but I'm just tickled to death that we got a motion passed that we're going to put it onto the council and get some of this stuff started. I'm just happy about that personally, but
Same here.
That's
Thank you.
my opinion. Okay, can we move on then? To the IPL priorities.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about IPL's priorities. They're supposed to put those together themselves. We just were tasked with coming up with priorities that we believe for the council to advise them for IPL. So I think we're done with priorities.
Okay, I agree with you. I didn't know whether we wanted to go with their priorities again or not, but I don't want to lengthen out the meetings to be longer than it should be and hash out
Mr.
stuff that
Chairman?
we can't hash out. Let's go on to B on the
Mr. Chairman?
interfund charges. Yes.
Jack Looney here. I don't totally agree with the past two comments. The Power and Light Department provided us with a memorandum recently regarding the Bondurant decision, and that's number one on the priority listing, or it's contained in number one on the priority listing. And I said, since they've done that, perhaps we should maybe spend a few minutes discussing what that memorandum means to everyone. Since it is like the number one, it's already begun actually.
Okay. Anybody want to discuss it further? I don't, but I think we can go ahead, discuss it.
Well, I have a question to the city regarding it. Maybe we can make it very short.
Okay, go ahead, Jack.
I'm not sure who we have there as representatives.
Mr. Chair, I believe we have Adam Norris and also Jim Nail.
Okay, so
Is Sarah in today?
No, she's not. She is actually on vacation.
Okay. She deserves
okay.
it.
Let me ask then, with those two being representatives of the city, since actually we received the memorandum from the Power and Light Department's leadership. May I ask, what does memorandum mean to the city? Is that just a staff member saying their opinion, or is that actually sent to the board members as a position on the Bondurant decision?
So I'll answer that. This is Adam. That the memorandum that was provided to the board was from Sarah Carnes. So I believe that was a general evaluation of that ruling. So it was essentially kind of a legal analysis of that decision.
All right. Where is the city then after that evaluation? Does that declare or imply, I should say, that the Bondurant decision is an official and legal document?
I think it's a legal analysis, and we need to consider what was outlined in there in the analysis.
It's been a couple, 3 weeks. I would think we'd all be very familiar with it.
Mm-hmm. I guess if there's a specific question about it, then we could address it, or we could wait and have this at an upcoming meeting when the person that wrote that analysis is present.
Actually, Adam, we've been dancing around this for months. It is the basis for achieving several other things on the priority listing. So that's why it's number one, and that's why it needs to be settled. I think we've all had enough time to evaluate it, and there's two major documents, and the city, I would appreciate a position from the city saying, yes, that is a legal document. Why would that we receive that memorandum had it not had validity? And then the other would be the charter. That'd be the second question after we conclude this. Is this the city's position or not? Is what my question is.
We have not made a position on it. Again, it was an analysis. So I think if you're asking for us to make an official position and on that, we can certainly do that. I think what the board had asked for and what we got was an assessment of that court case.
All right, I accept the fact that you did that, but if people are going to say, well, that doesn't mean anything, it's just one of our consultants or one of our staff members, then it doesn't hold water. It's meaningless and we don't need it. We need a position from the city on the Bondurant decision. And we
Okay.
need that pretty quick so we can move on with the Power and Light priorities and doing business.
Okay.
Adam, I realize
Jack?
I put you on the spot, but it's very much needed.
Adam, just
Yes.
a minute, please. Jack,
Yes, sir.
I'm being kind of critical here. I think you and I have been around this city long enough to know that the city's really already made made their stand on it. I think they've done it time and time again. My problem with it is what kind of leverage do you have with it when it's been proven time and time again they ignore it and the city charter. I mean, it's been proven time with every different city council that we've had since the original Bondurant decision was went to court. So I think they've made their point as what they think about it. They just ignore it because they know that when you look at it and it's all fine and dandy, there's no penalty. If you violate it, there's no penalty. Nobody's going to get chastised over it. It's a simple fact, and I don't know what to do other than you change this charter and say, yeah, it's okay, go ahead and do it, or not. That's my opinion on it. I'd like to listen to somebody else on the board, their opinions, please.
So if I could respond to Jack real quick, I think it would be helpful to start with where the specific concerns are and where the board believes it's being violated, and that would be a good starting point for us.
Mr. Chairman,
Is that a question to me? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
This is Mark.
Is it? Yeah, Mark.
I just like to applaud Jack and his effort to continue to bring it up. I think I can't disagree with you either, Larry. The issue is we have to continue to bring it up till it gets to the publics, the people that we are representing, the ratepayers. That's our role, is to represent the ratepayers. The ratepayers have asked us to look at it and to make sure that we follow the rules. And I think that the Bondurant is something that's been ignored for a long time. We got special interest groups saying things like, it's so many years old, it's no longer valid. And Sarah's, the attorney's summary makes it very clear it is a real document. And I think our role is to continue to push the issue. And like I think you said, Larry, they make the decisions. Our job is to just inform and advise that when they violate it, that they are violent. And I think we've done a pretty darn good job with letting the council know where there's problems and when there hasn't been. I also applaud the attorney making it very clear what the rules should be. And at some point, I do think that changes are going to be made. I see major changes happening every day with the changing of the council, the makeup of the council. And I think there's an election coming up. That's where we make the difference, is to make people aware of the fact that we aren't following the charter, and the people that are making those decisions probably need to go. And that's, I feel that what Jack is bringing forward as the first priority makes all the difference in the world. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It needs to be addressed and finalized, but I don't look for it to ever being done. But go ahead, Jack.
Too much to respond to, but basically, the questions are in the Bondurant information says time and time again, utilities should be operated for the benefit of the ratepayers, not for the benefit of the taxpayers, making a very clear distinction between the two entities. Regardless of what matter we're talking about, how insignificant or how major, there is a difference. If it's not an aspect that's needed to generate, purchase power, deliver it, maintain it to the customer for the customer's electrical use, if it's anything outside of those boundaries, it's inappropriate according to the Bondurant decision. That's why it's so very important that someone other than the board take a position on this. The board consists of volunteers that represent the ratepayers. We received information from the city's legal counsel, as Mark indicated, which would indicate that they were supporting it as a legal document. Now, does the city or does the city not agree with that? Then we can go on to do business from there.
And
Okay.
I guess, again, my question is if there are specific examples that the board would like staff to review, we'll be glad to do that.
I just as soon get the broader question answered before we move on to something that can just be put aside and not ever answered.
Well, I guess my question is, what I heard some of the board members say was that the city's violating the charter and the decision. So if that's the case, it'd be helpful to know where those concerns lie with the board so we could look at those and evaluate those.
I agree, and I think we could do that once both entities agree that we're working from the same legal documents. The charter, I'm not even talking about the charter. Charter has equally some questions. And I would find it surprising that the city would say that it's not a legal document, but I don't want to go there right now. I just want to stay with the Bondurant decision.
Adam, can I interrupt here and help a little bit or try? Would it be possible for you to take this to the city manager and tell him we'd like to have an answer on Jack's question? And then if you do say it's a legal document, as the city says it, or the legal people say it is, then we will come up with specific items. I can think of several right now off the top of my head, but I'm not going to do that at this time. Then we will address them later at then our next meeting or later on down the line. Is that all right, Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that all right, Adam?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. You got that?
One more to sum that up. Could we get that in the next meeting? It doesn't seem too difficult, so that we don't go on for months and months and then it's a forgotten item.
Well, I think Adam can do that. He works pretty fast.
I'm not
That's what his wife says.
Yes, we'll plan to have that on next week's agenda.
I thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Dave McDowell. I apologize for my voice. This is what COVID sounds like, everybody. All right. If my understanding is correct, we have a debt of $140 million. And I don't know what department is responsible for me to ask this question, but I'd like to make a motion. I would like an accounting of each of the city's outstanding bonds, when they were established, when they're going to expire, I would also like to know what the bond was used for. I'd also like to know the high amount of debt that this city has been in debt for in the past. All I'm trying to do is get a handle on our money. That's my motion.
Well, I think, can we clarify that? We're a utility board. We're not the rest of the city. So would you mean bonds for the utilities?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you're doing it that way, do I hear a second?
I'll second it. Mark McDonald.
Mark McDonald seconds it, Christina. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Good. From a staff perspective, we can provide that. That was in one of the many reports that PFM provided, listed our bonds and our outstanding debt, but we can provide that to the board.
I would.
Adam, did it say what it was actually for, or was just when it was issued?
That might be the one piece of missing information, but I think we have that on our website too.
Super.
So I'll make sure you all have that information.
Well, then do we need a vote?
You all will have that before the next meeting, okay?
All right. Is that all right, Dave?
That would be sufficient. Thank you very much.
Okay, then you're withdrawing your motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Next item is interfund charges.
So I'm not sure who put this agenda item on, so someone would have to ask the question.
Well, I think it's that report that I asked you for. I think that it's for the $3.5 million for inter funds to the city.
Okay.
And you told me something about budget or something. I can't remember what now. It's been so long.
Absolutely. So we, the board had provided a list of, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 questions to the staff back in December, I think. And Jim Nail provided responses to those of the board on December 10th, sent a memo to you all. One of our responses was about the interfund. Well, one of the questions was about the interfund transfers, and what we stated at the time, and we would really have nothing further to add at this till that exercise is complete, is that we're going through a process right now. It started earlier this year to create a really clear and transparent process and accounting for how all those charges take place next year and going forward. So that'll be part of this coming fiscal year's budget process. And as that process moves forward, we'll be glad to share the process and the methodology with this board before that kind of gets nailed down through the budgeting process.
Then we're not going to know where the 3.5 went.
We'll, going forward, we'll have a methodology and a formula that we will provide to the board to show how that works. Much like what we did
is that like a budgeted item? 3.5 is for inter-fund changes.
So what we'll provide is, it's not unlike the PFM report, where it's the methodology for how we arrive at our cash balance policy. We'll provide kind of the methodology and the numbers behind those interfund charges.
Okay. All right.
Mr.
Any
Chairman.
questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark McDonald.
Yeah.
This is all originated from a request for information I asked for going on 10 months now. And it basically said, what are we spending? What items are we spending dollars on that the ratepayers are paying for that's up and beyond what is used for the production, distribution, and transmission of electricity? And I appreciate what Adam is saying about in the future, but those dollars actually went from IPL to the city of Independence, and I think it was $3.7 million. And I saw the other parts of the listing. Whether it's sponsorship of the Mavericks or whether it's the payment for the Economic Development Committee, the real purpose of that is to let the ratepayers know that these are things that we're funding that are not really tied to their utilities. And at some point, we need to know what makes up that 3.7 million, which is the lion's share of the entire listing. And they're paying for something. Just tell us what they're paying for. I guess is what I'm asking for. I think I asked that it be subpoenaed, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk to Sarah about.
Okay.
That's what I want. I want to know where it's going. It's just a matter of transparency to the ratepayers and us of where the money went. I don't care. I just think it needs to be brought out to the public.
Yeah, and again, I think our intent is to provide that as we're, right in the midst of budget year, and we will have that, in the next 2 months probably, what that looks like, 2 or 3 months. If I remember right, and I'm just want to make sure I'm got this straight. The original request from Mr. McDonald was kind of non-operating costs for IPL, and we had a lengthy report on that, and then that was whittled down to a handful of items that we provided in that memo. So, we provided it was I don't remember how many pages, but it was a big report. And then it got whittled down to a smaller number. And then in that was the interfund charges, which also includes customer service support, and those types of things, in addition to, IT support.
Well,
So,
Adam, that's what I'm saying, or I'm asking you to say. You're telling me that for like interfunds support for billing and all the other stuff is a budgeted item. Is that what we're saying?
So that 3.7 is a transfer that is in the budget, and when we go forward, we're going to provide you with the methodology and what those numbers mean as part of the upcoming budget process.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
With the accounting department that we have, this has nothing to do with budgeting. By next meeting, we should be able to see just whatever the inter-fund transfers are. That's the equivalent, in my mind, my weak mind, 40 people worth, 40 employees worth of salary and fringe benefits that IPL is paying for, and we need to know what that money is going for. And maybe we need to find alternatives to using the city for certain things, or we should outsource it to someone else, because the ratepayers need the best use of their dollars that they get. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's all I'm asking for.
That's all I wanted.
We need to have something by next meeting.
Yeah, and as we stated in our December 10th memo, the transfers at this point in time are not broken down by cost centers, which those are, the different departments. So as part of the upcoming budget year, we're going to have it broken out that way.
Well, that's what we're getting at, Adam. This is the things that make the taxpayers, the ratepayers, wonder what the heck is going on with their money. I mean, it's a simple thing that you just have. You got a staff up there in the finance department. Them two ladies that I met as were helping up there, they could figure this out in probably a day where it went. I just don't understand why we can't just say, all right, this amount went to this amount went to that, and this amount went to that. That's all we're asking. Is that right, Mark?
Excuse me, I was getting back on to unmute me. Yes, it's absolutely. It's all about transparency, and we should be able to have these kind of reports. I don't know whether it should be monthly. When we had the old dashboard, I feel like we had a better feel for what was really going on in the operations. We could see a lot of things differently than we do now. But right now, for me, this looks like we got $3.7 million. We just throw it to the city. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think anything's going on that's wrong. It's just that we need to have a better handle on, because cost cutting is going to be essential for IPL, WPC, and the water department. Pure and simple. We can applaud today, and we were on the radio station for a lot of good things that IPL did with the council did with the rates. But for us to be able to do some things like that in the future, we need to know where our expenses are. And hopefully no one's taking this personally. I just want to know so that we can report to the ratepayers that they're getting a good bang for their buck. That's all it is.
That's all. You're right. Anyway, well, I wish you'd work on that, Adam, but do what you can. I appreciate it.
Yeah, again, that is something we're working on, and we'll have that to you all as part of next year's next fiscal year. Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Jack.
Mr. Chairman, question for Adam.
Yeah.
You've got to make your budget proposal in April, don't you?
We'll start kind of getting that finalized in April and May. Yes.
Then I would think in April we could see those numbers, if not sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like I said, I think it's the next 2 or 3 months. So that's April or May. Yes.
Okay. There's no reason to wait to July when the budget begins. Next fiscal year begins.
That's not the intent.
No, we're working with some of that information now, and I would think, since the city manager requires you to have it in April, I would think we would be able to see that portion of it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we get something, those dollars are actually going out of IPL. I'd like to make a motion that we see something from the accounting on where those dollars, what those dollars were spent on from IPL by next month. I know that's the 18th is, we have another meeting next week, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say March, the March meeting, we need to have something. We've been going on this for 10 months, folks. That's not reasonable. The ratepayers deserve better than this.
It doesn't
on the floor.
So from a staff perspective, again, we are in the middle of the budget process, and things will workload and our needs are starting to really ramp up in the last month, and will continue to do so until the budget is presented. So our staff is workload is pretty high right now and will continue to be high through finalizing the budget. So what I've proposed is that we absolutely provide a very transparent accounting and methodology for how these will work in the future. And and it's going to be provided within the next few months as part of our budgeting process.
All right, Adam.
Do we have a second?
What? Do we have a second on the motion?
Second. That's McDowell.
Thank you, Dave. Got a second and discussion. My only thing is, Adam, is I just don't. I understand you're tied down with work. When you come up with the budget and you tell us the methodology and all that in April or May, that doesn't tell me where $3.7 million went this last budget.
One option could be for the board to make a request to the Audit and Finance Committee for the management analyst to perform that analysis.
Good God, that's great. Let's do the first motion, then I'll make another motion.
Yeah, withdraw that one, make another one.
Okay, I'll withdraw that one. Thanks, Adam. I'd like make a motion that our management analysts do an analysis on that $3.7 million interdepartment fund transfer. And we need to have it, I don't know what kind of time limit do you want to put on it, but I think that is the perfect rationale. Thanks, Adam.
So just to clarify, I believe the protocol would be for this committee to make a request, this board to make a request to the Audit and Finance Committee about that.
Okay. Then I make the motion change, make a request through the Finance and Audit Committee for the management analyst to look at the $3.7 million interfund transfer that is already taking place. The money is already spent. We just need to know what it's being used from and used for.
Get a second on that motion.
I second Joe Zach.
No, Mike.
Joe Zach seconds it. Any more discussion? I have one question. Christina?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
If we make that request, are you the one that writes it up and sends it from us? Or do I have to call them?
You mean from the board to the
Yes.
management
I'll
finance committee?
I'll work
Yeah.
with Christina.
I think that's to the city manager's office, probably.
Mr.
sorry.
Chair, I'll work with Christina on this.
Okay, and we'd like to set a limit on that. We'd like to have it for the March meeting. I have a
And you're
second.
asking for that to add it to the motion?
I'll second it. Can I second it after I made the first motion?
Yeah, it's fine. Call for vote.
Larry Porter,
Yes.
Jack Looney, Jack Looney,
Yes, don't know how that happened.
was that a yes? Mr.
Yes.
Looney?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Land,
Yes.
Joe Zach,
Yes.
Mark McDonald,
Yes, ma'am.
David McDowell,
Yes.
Bridget McCandless,
Yes.
Motion passed. We have a meeting coming up on the 18th. I guess that's all we have for today. Anybody got any comments before we close?
Yes, sir. Jack Looney.
Jack?
Thank you. This is a conversation I'm having with my fellow board members, but there's much important business on our plates, on our upcoming agendas, and much more even in the large future decisions we need to make recommendations on. 1 hour a month doesn't seem to be getting our business done. One of the things that should happen is anytime that there's training, let's have a special meeting for that. Although it takes up more time, it doesn't take up time that could be used during our regular business meeting for very important things. And I'd like to be assured that our chairman is allowed to have input and approval of our agenda for each and every month. Right now, we're really not spending just 1 hour a month. We're spending basically 2 hours a month, and it still isn't getting our business done. And I'd be the last to say I want to spend more time going to meetings, But something's got to be considered, and something's not going to or something's got to change. And that's what I offer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jack. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Mark McDonald again. I hate to monopolize this. The elephant in the room that we got to talk about are these utility bills. We've got folks out there that are getting $700, $800, $900 utility bills, and it's fantastic they're getting this credit. But if there's something wrong with the system, we need to get it fixed. If we can't get real readings from the meter readers, we're doing a huge disservice. And it's clear that if you read any social media, we've got a lot of folks out there that just do not trust the utility bills. Is it just the hacking situation that caused this? How someone can have an 80-day utility bill because of the hacking? And if so, did we back up any of the data so that we wouldn't have this kind of catastrophe? And I guess, Adam, that's a statement to you.
Yeah, so we read all the meters in January. It was our costs for meter reading that month were 50% higher than they were the year prior, but we were able to get all meters read.
No, you weren't.
Okay. So by and large, we were able to read most meters, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and then I think by the end of this week, all bills will have been generated for customers since the cyber attack occurred.
Jack Looney with a quick input.
Go ahead, Jack.
I don't think Mark was talking about just one time. I believe talking about a number of ways that the system doesn't work. Two I've personally experienced is me and my neighbors didn't even receive a bill last month. Well, didn't even receive it. And so when we checked on it, then we find out that we owe for 2 months. Those things shouldn't happen. And then another thing that I've talked to the director about is lining up in line over there to pay your bill to find out that you can't pay it through a credit card because the system's down. I mean, it would be just simple little things like that to notify people that are getting in line of what the rules are when they get to the teller box. We're seemingly just asking for criticism. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Also, Mark, you might be aware of, you're not going to have readings for this month, I don't think either, because of the weather. You're not going to get your meters read. They're going to be estimated, a bunch of them. So it's an ongoing problem and needs to be addressed, but they don't read in this weather, and that's in their union contract. So we can't even argue that with them. So we're going to have another month of this, people complaining about not getting their meter read. I had to go show my meter reader how to open my gate. And the latch says there, lift up. And then he read my meter finally. That was a month ago, 2 months ago. And it hadn't been read since. So I don't know. I guess he can't figure out how to do the latch up on the gate. Anyway, that's all I got. Mark, anything else?
It's just real sad, and it's not just a bad reflection on IPL. We also have the concerns with WPC and the water bills, and we got special interest groups sending out stuff saying that IPL is so far in debt, or is going down the tubes, and at the same time, water and sewer is doing fine. Well, they didn't get their bills out any quicker or any better than IPL did. So I want what's best for our city. I want our city to move forward. I don't want us to be the laughing joke of the community. And we get these kind of things about utility bills and not being able to pay them, and that's just not what I want to see for our group. The other thing, the last thing I want to talk about, as soon as the mayor has decided that we're going to open up the city better so we can have regular face-to-face meetings, I would move that we have some public hearings as soon as possible. You know, multiple people have said about us not having public hearings. I can't disagree with that. But at the same time, even the city council special open public hearing they had, only one group showed up. This is not conducive for folks to show up to public hearings. And I think the ratepayers need to be heard, not only on the residential side, but the commercial side too. So that's all you're going to hear from me today, but God bless you all and stay warm, will you?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Yes, Bridget.
Point of clarification. So you had said we would come back to the document for any wordsmithing or modification. Does that happen at a different meeting or does that happen today? And the second item was, I believe we still owe Mr. Forster some kind of resolution on the letter that he sent to each one of us. And can we make sure that's on the following agenda for the 18th?
Well, I'd be glad to, but I have attempted. Have you talked to Mr. Forster?
Yes, sir.
Well, good. He must want to talk to a woman then, rather than me, because I've called enough message after message, and he's failed to call me back. If he's not interested in calling me back, so give me some idea to help him. I'm not interested in helping him. If he come to you, then that's fine. But I think we can do it in comments at the next meeting. Don't have to be an agenda item at this time just for one customer. We got other priorities at this time. I think we could bring it up in the comments after at the end of the next meeting.
Okay.
If that's right with you.
Yep.
And as far as the language, we're going to change that as we go through it. And that won't be at the next meeting. Okay? Okay?
Okay, so let me understand. What we approved, Jack Looney's substitute language, is now going to the city council, or we're going to discuss the items that I brought up today?
What items is that?
I asked that just modification in Mr. Looney's memo to include a statement that we need to design a portfolio of staged options of purchase, generation, and partnerships. In recognition.
That will be at another meeting. Yes, we'll do that.
Okay.
And bring it up. But we have to get through these other priorities that's already on agendas for upcoming meetings. But we will address it as soon as possible. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn. It is adjourned. Thank you so much for your input, and please be safe and warm.